Good morning. I got another video for you, and we're going to talk about the James Webb Telescope and how it's killing atheism. It really is. So, how the James Webb Telescope, here's my prediction, supports actually the belief in the God of the Bible, and you'll be surprised. It's quite a remarkable mystery, to be honest with you. Atheistic materialism destroyed by the James Webb. This is part 4 of a series I'm doing, okay? So, I'm going to start off with another peer-reviewed article and then a very short video clip from another theoretical German physicist. So here's the title: Astronomers observe time dilation in the early universe. And I have videos that I'll leave in the link description below that'll give you more information about time dilation that I've talked about in the past. I've had atheists comment saying to the effect that that's all nonsense, but it was Carl Sagan and other scientists talking about it. But anyway, events appear to unfold 5 times slower when the universe was a tenth of its present age, an effect predicted by Einstein. Astronomers have watched the distant universe running in slow motion, marking the first time that the weird effect predicted by Einstein more than a century ago has been observed in the early cosmos. We see things happening about 5 times slower than today. A professor of astrophysics and lead author of the study at the University of Sydney. It's like watching a movie with the speed turned down. Now just remember that. I've got a lot of details in here, and I'll try to catch you up. If you haven't watched any of my other videos on time dilation, it might be a bit hard to fathom, but I'm going to show another video that'll go into more detail of what exactly time dilation is, so don't despair. But understand that we'll talk about it more later, okay? I'm just trying to get little pieces into your head. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, astronomers should see ancient cosmic events happen more slowly than modern ones. The effect, known as time dilation, is driven by the expansion of the universe, and that is a key point that, again, I'll talk about. So keep that in your mind. Astronomers have previously seen stars explode in slow motion, with the flash and fade unfolding at roughly half normal speed from when the universe was half its present age. Now, let's watch another short secular video clip.
Welcome everyone to this week's Science News. Today we'll talk about the first evidence that time ran slower in the early universe. Astronomers from the University of Sydney have found evidence that time ran slower in the early universe. You've probably heard of cosmological redshift, which means that light from faraway galaxies is shifted to the red as it travels towards us. This happens because the universe expands as the light travels. But this isn't the only effect of the expansion of the universe. Another effect is that when we look back in time, we see everything happening slower. It's called cosmological time dilation. Indeed, the two things go together. Think about it this way. If you have a wave, you could use each crest of the wave as a tick of a clock. Now, if the wave shifts to the red, it stretches and those ticks move apart, so the clock ticks slower. It's a direct consequence of Einstein's theory of general relativity. In the new paper now, they report that they've seen a systematic slowdown in the variability of quasars that is compatible with cosmological time dilation. Quasar is short for quasi-stellar object. They're supermassive black holes that sit in galactic centers and accrete matter. The matter gets very hot and leads to a lot of radiation that makes quasars very bright. For their analysis, the astronomers used a sample of 200 quasars at different distances from Earth. They sorted them into 4 different samples, depending on their emission characteristics, and then they looked for systematic shifts in quasar variability that correlates with distance. That way, they were able to infer that about 12 billion years ago, time in the universe ran 5 times slower than today. What does it mean that time ran slower in the early universe? Did people back then jump in slow motion? No, cosmological time dilation is purely an observational effect. It's about how events from back then look to us. If you lived back then, you wouldn't have noticed people jumping any differently than today. This is the first time cosmological time dilation has been experimentally confirmed. Previous studies didn't find it, so I guess this result will be hotly discussed in the coming.
Okay, so the major takeaway I want you to get from the video is time, of course, ran slower in the early universe. Now, another major finding is that time dilation proves that the universe is expanding, which again, I'll just mention briefly here, but it is very significant to what the James Webb Telescope itself is finding, and then what some other researchers are trying to say about that. I'll have more to say about this particular item, the expanding universe, in another video with more information. But in this one, I want to concentrate more on time dilation. So what? What is the significance of this find? Well, let's first, to get more information and understanding, let's watch a secular science video clip from Carl Sagan about two adolescent brothers and a motor scooter. And you just pretend that the motor scooter can travel at the speed of light.
Paolo says goodbye to his little brother Vincenzo.
Ciao, Vincenzo.
And rides off. He's now going more than half the speed of light. He's almost catching up with his own light waves. This compresses the light waves in front of him, and his image becomes blue. The shorter wavelength is what makes blue light waves blue. Also, Paolo becomes skinny in the direction of motion. This isn't just some optical illusion. It really happens when you travel near the speed of light. As he roars away, he leaves his own light waves stretched out behind him. Long light waves are red. We say that his receding image is red-shifted. Now, Paolo leaves for a short tour of the countryside. The most bizarre aspect of traveling near the speed of light is that time slows down. All clocks, mechanical and biological, tick more slowly near the speed of light. But stationary clocks tick at their usual rate. If we travel close to light speed, we age more slowly than those we left behind. Paolo's watch and his internal sense of time show that he's been gone from his friends for only a few minutes. But from their point of view, he has been away for many decades. His friends have grown up, moved on, and died. And his younger brother has been patiently waiting for him all this time. The two brothers experience the paradox of time dilation. They've encountered Einstein's special relativity.
Vincenzo.
I have a few other videos where I talk about time dilation in greater detail, and I will leave links in the description below for more information. But until the modern day find by scientists in 2023, I would consider most of the evidence for time dilation somewhat esoteric, or what we would call mind experiments. That's how mental exercises, that's what Einstein used quite a bit, actually. But now we have scientific evidence that the early universe at least ran 5 times slower than today, and at a distance, they were peering out at a distance, according to the video, of 12 billion years away from us. So, and as the video noted, the expansion of the universe causes this time dilation. And again, the expansion of the universe is very important, but I'm going to say this, that is astounding. Well, first of all, we're going to get into it, but I'm not going to cover the whole thing yet. Again, I'm just giving you bits and pieces, trying to put it all together in a pattern, so bear with me. So what does this have to do with the God of the Bible specifically? Well, the God of the Bible actually talked about time dilation thousands of years ago. And I do have a video where I discuss these two verses in detail. I don't have time to do that. Again, I'll leave links in the description below where you can watch that. But for right now, I just want to get this in your head. Psalm 90 verse 4, for 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, and like a watch in the night. We'll discuss it in a minute. Then in 2 Peter 3:8, but behold, do not forget this one thing, that with the Lord 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. And both of those verses are going to be very important in a minute. So I do have it again. I have a video that goes into depth, but I want to bring up another biblical conundrum, something that I haven't talked about before, in a few minutes, okay? But again, for more foundation of understanding, let's go back to science for a minute. So, in the early universe, according to this new study, the early universe ran 5 times slower than today. So, what does this mean for, say, like the Carl Sagan video I showed earlier? Well, the eldest brother, he was the one that was on the scooter. Time for him passed, only a few minutes passed. But when he got back, his little brother that stayed behind, you might say, actually, he was the one that actually traveled through time so much faster, and by the time the older brother returned, the little brother was 80 years old. Now, we always say it the other way around. We say that the younger brother is the one that traveled through time. Well, I would say it's just the opposite. If both brothers could live for an eternity, which they can't, if they could live for an eternity, then the one that traveled through time was the one that experienced 80 years, and the other one just experienced a few minutes. But we'll leave that aside for now. But now, here's a new biblical aspect I want to bring into this discussion, and it has to do with the length of a lifetime among the first humans, according to the biblical record, of course. So in Genesis, according to the biblical record, the first humans on this planet, like Methuselah, like Adam and Eve, etc., they lived into their 900s. Methuselah lived 969 years old, and again, he's the oldest man ever recorded. Well, again, back to the biblical text, in the day that you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die. That's Genesis 2:17. Now, as we've seen in 2 Peter 3:8, a day is like 1,000 years to the Lord, which means no man has lived in the Bible past 1,000 years. But the day we're talking about is not an earth day, 24 hours. We're talking about 1,000 years in regards to the first humans. So keep that in mind. But here's an interesting change by God in how long he's going to allow humans to live. So in Genesis 6:3, right before the flood, God says that he's going to change the amount of time man can live. He changes his days shall be 120 years. A day is like 1,000 years. So the first humans die within the day that they ate of the fruit. But they do live almost 1,000 years. So the day is one of God's days. A day is like 1,000 years. Then, just before the flood, God reduces the time that man can live on the earth during his lifetime to 120 years. So 1,000 divided by 120 is 8.33, or a reduction in the time allowed to a bit over, 1/8 of a day. 1/8 of God's days, in other words. So again, now, let's look back at Psalm 90, verse 4. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, which means that's the day to 1,000-year ratio. But then here's the new conundrum, and like a watch in the night. So what's a watch in the night? Well, it's a period of time that a soldier would experience while guarding his encampment. There were 4 watches each night for a total of 12 hours, sun up to sundown. Well, that means that a watch in the night would be roughly 3 hours. Now, how many watches in the night can you cram into a 24-hour period? Well, 8 times 3 equals 24. So again, we're back to a watch in the night being 1/8 of a day, just like the 1,000 year to 120 years is 1/8 of God's days. Merely a coincidence? Maybe, but I don't think so. So, in other words, did God use time dilation to reduce man's effective ability to live almost 1,000 years to 120? Well, the new scientific discovery of time dilation suggests strong evidence this is exactly what God did according to the Bible. And the modern day discovery says time was 5 times slower in the past, but that's looking at 12 billion years out. But I'm positive that this figure could be much higher. Why? Well, it's called the expansion rate of the universe. The study only looked at 12 billion light years away. Of course, we know that the universe is older than that. So objects further out are traveling faster than the objects at 12 billion years and experience more time dilation. In fact, objects at the edge of our field of view are traveling away from us, quote, faster than the speed of light. And I have a video clip from Alexander Filipinko in the description below that you can watch, and that's exactly what he says, which means more time dilation the further out we look. Okay. Furthermore, if time dilation in the past is observed, what could this mean for the parts of the universe that are 5 times slower than our patch of the universe? Well, it's just like the older brother in the Carl Sagan video I showed. Actually, the parts of the universe that are further away from us, traveling away from us faster than the speed of light, well, they can be younger than our patch of the universe. In other words, our patch of the universe could look like it's 13.6 billion years. And yet, the parts of the universe that are further away from us could only be, 5 to 8 times less or even more. And that all can be true at the same time by time dilation. And you must have to admit that's amazing. So let me repeat the main points. Cosmologists believe that not only is our universe expanding, but it is expanding at an accelerated rate. The expansion rate, they say, is faster than the speed of light for the objects that are at the edge of our field of view. So in the video, the physicists talked about looking at objects 12 billion light years away were involved in the study. So, just like the Carl Sagan clip time I showed of the two brothers, time appears to be different, and it can be, for each end of the universe. More importantly, just as I pointed out, the God of the Bible reduced his lifespan from 1,000 to 120 Earth years. And that just happens to be 8 times less than before, right in line with Psalm 90 verse 4 and the time dilation ratio of 1/8 that was given for one of God's days. I do not for a minute believe, that is just a coincidence, period. It's not a coincidence. What's interesting is one aspect was written in Genesis, the other aspect was written in Psalms thousands of years later. But it corroborates what the biblical text says in regard to time dilation in this universe. You can't make this up, and it gives credence to the biblical narrative. So right in front of your face, and using the most advanced and up-to-date science in 2023, time dilation is scientifically confirmed and corroborates the biblical text. To an amazing degree, of course. Furthermore, for those atheists that wish for a steady-state universe again, and I've heard that, they're saying that's what the James Webb telescope is showing, and I'll have another video coming after this one that'll get more into detail about this. Time dilation kills that idea, because time dilation is dependent upon, according to the video and the physicist, the German physicist in the video I showed, time dilation is dependent upon the expansion of the universe. Our universe had a beginning. So if it had a beginning, then what is more reasonable and probable and logical to believe? It is more reasonable, it is more probable, and it is more logical to believe that it had a beginner, and that is a simple fact. Praise the Lord. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye.